All right, so this video is going to focus on how to convert equations, right, quadratic equations from standard form to factored form. Okay, so the why, right? Like, why do we even care about this? Well, if you have an equation that looks something like, something that looks like, I don't know, y equals x squared plus 6x plus 9, this only tells you, right, what the vertex is and what the y-intercept is. But if you can put it in factored form, and I'll tell you what it'll look like, y equals x plus 3 times x plus 3, this tells you what the x-intercepts are, okay? So if you go from different types of equations, it might tell you different pieces of information about them. But before we learn how to go from standard to factored, let's do some puzzles, okay? These puzzles are gonna look like this. What are two numbers that multiply to 10 and add up to 7? Okay, so if you thought 2 and 5, you're correct. Let's do another one. What two numbers multiply to 20 and add up to 9? If you thought of 4 and 5, you're absolutely correct. Let's do one more. What are two numbers that multiply to 12 and add up to 13? This one's a little bit tricky, right? Personally, if you're having trouble thinking of what two numbers multiply to something and add up to something, I would think of all the factors, aka all the numbers that you can multiply to get 12. So I know 1 times 12 is 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4, and that's where you can stop actually, because there's nothing else. Once you figure out all the numbers that you can multiply to get 12, then you add them. 1 plus 12 is 13, 2 plus 6 is 8, and 3 plus 4 is 7. One of these matches up, right? It's 1 and 12. These are called diamond puzzles. And for the assignment today, I'm definitely going to have you practice these puzzles because it's important that you start thinking of factors of numbers. What times what equals something? Because once you figure out what those two factors are, you also have to make sure that they're going to add up to the same number. The reason why it's important to be able to solve these diamond puzzles is because when you go from standard to factored, that's exactly what you're going to be doing. You're literally going to be solving diamond puzzles, okay? So let's take a look at y equals x squared plus 11x plus 24. You're going to set up your diamond puzzle, okay? On the top, you're going to have AC, and on the bottom, you're going to have B. Now you might be wondering, what the heck is this ACB stuff? Well, remember, let me use a color. I'm going to use orange. Oh, sorry. I've totally forgot to write it. A standard form equation is actually written, right? It can be written as ax squared plus bx plus c. A is a number in front of the x. B is a number, A is a number in front of the x squared, B is a number in front of the x. And then last but not least, I'll use red. C is this number here. So it's going to take some time for you to start identifying what A, B, and C are in a quadratic equation, but it gets really easy really quickly, okay, as long as you can identify what those numbers are. So let's do this. A, C. In this case, A is 1 because there's no number in front of the x squared. So 1 times 24 is 24. And then B is 11. So what times what equals 24 and adds up to 11? Give you some time to think. Dun, 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 dun. If you thought of the numbers 3 and 8, you were absolutely correct. So, once you figured out what those two numbers are, I know this is very abstract, it's very weird, but hear me out. You're going to create a box. Okay? A 2x2 box. In one corner, you're going to put this term here, x squared. And then the opposite corner, you're going to put 24. Now, what do you think you're going to put in those missing boxes? Yep, you're going to put the 3 and the 8. But it's not just a 3 and an 8. It's going to be a 3x and an 8x. Now, I'll explain what we're going to do with it, but just to make sure, this is still the same equation. X squared, x squared. 11x, we broke it up as 8x and 3x, and you'll see why. And then 24, 24. Okay, so it's the same equation. Now, let me use a different color for this, red. Now, what we're going to be doing is, I know this might be the first time you're seeing this, and that's fine. We're going to be factoring, okay? We're going to be looking at these two and see what they have in common. What do they both have in common? We're going to factor it out, okay? Now, the first term is x squared. That's x times x. And the 8x is just 8 times x. So what do they both have in common? They both have an x in common. And you're going to put the x up there, okay? Now, what do both of these have in common? Actually, no, my bad. You have to do the x's first, right? So what does an x squared and a 3x have in common? An x. Now you can do this one. What does a 3x and a 24 have in common? Like, what number can you sort of pull out from both of those? I'll give you a hint. It's not the x. You can't pull out the x because only the first term has an x, but not the second term. So it has to be a number. If you're thinking of the number 3, you're absolutely correct. You can take out a 3 from 3x, and you can also take out a 3 from 24, right? Because 24 divided by 3 is 8. So we're going to put a positive 3 here. And now we got to do the last one down here, 8x and 24. What can you pull out from both of those terms? An 8, a positive 8, right? You have now completely factored the box. And what you get is you have, here, let me use a highlighter. You have x plus 3 in parentheses. And on this side you have x plus 8. And that's equal to y. You have converted the equation x squared plus 11x plus 24. You have converted it from standard to factored. Y equals x plus 3 times x plus 8. You'll get a chance to practice this. Let's try another one. Actually, we're going to try 3 more. Okay, it's going to be a long video, but it's an important skill. I'm going to use a different color. Suppose we have, x squared plus 6x plus 8. Okay? What does a equal? 1. Because that's the number in front of the x squared. What does b equal? 6. What does c equal? 8. Set up your diamond puzzle. AC, B. 1 times 8 is 8. and then 6. What two numbers multiply to 8 but add up to 6? 4 and 2. What this means is you're going to set up your box. You're going to put the x squared term here, and you're going to put the constant diagonally across the 8. You're going to put the 4 and the 2, and then you're going to add the x's. Use a different color for the factoring. Let's do this one. X squared and 4x, what do they both have in common? An x. What does the x squared and the 2x have in common? X. What does the 2x and the 8 have in common? A 2, right? Because you can divide both of them by 2. And last but not least, what do the 4x and the 8 have in common? A 4. Because you can factor out a 4 from both of those. And now, you have your factors. X plus 2, parentheses, and x plus 4, parentheses. We have converted the equation y equals x squared plus 6x plus 8 into its factored form. Now I want to say this right now. You know your factors are correct if this number times this number equals this number. 2 times 4, okay? That's one way you can check. Let's go back to purple. Let's do another one. Let's try y equals 3x squared plus 10x plus 8. What does 8 equal? 3. What does b equal? 10. And what does c equal? 8. Let's set up a diamond puzzle. A, C, B. A times C, that's 3 times 8, so 24. And B is 10. So what two numbers multiply to 24 and add up to 10? If you already know the answer, awesome. If you don't, let's think of what times what equals 24. So I know 1 times 24 is 24. I know 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, and that's where we stop. And then what two numbers add up to 10? 4 and 6, right? And those are the numbers, 4 and 6. So you're going to set up your you're going to set up your box. You're going to put the x squared term in the corner, 3x squared. You're going to put the constant diagonally, 8. And are you going to put the 4x and the 6x? Now you might be wondering, does it matter where we put the x's? No, it does not. And then we factor. So I'm going to use a different color for this. I'm going to use red. The 3x squared and the 4x, what do they have in common? Okay, I agree. They both have an x term. Do they share a number? Does 3 and 4 share a number? Like a factor? No. Okay. Let's go like this now. What does 3x squared and 6x have in common? They both have an x, so we'll put an x there. Do 3 and 6 share a common factor? Like, can you divide 3 and 6 by a certain number and they both give you like a whole number? Absolutely. That number is 3. You can take out a 3x from both of those terms. Now, let's look at this. These two. What do 6x and 8 have in common? They don't have an x in common, so I know that. You can take out a 2, right? They're both even, so you can take out a 2 or factor out a 2. You can't take out an odd number from 8, so we know if they have a factor in common, it has to be even, and 2 is the only one. Because you can't even take out 4 from 6, right? That would give you a decimal. And similarly, let's take a look at 4x and 8. What do they both have in common? They don't have an x, but they do have a 4 in common. And, let's just check that we factored this correctly. Okay? 2 times 4. Sorry, I just said that wrong. 4 times 2. Is that equal to 8? Yep. That equals 8. What about this one? 3x and 2. What's 3x times 2? Is that 6x? Yes, it is. That's one way, technically, you can actually do these a lot faster. You don't have to think about what the biggest factor you can take out. You can just think 3x times what equals 6x? 2. So a 2 must go here. So the factors of this equation are x plus 2 and 3x plus 4. That's what y equals. So the original equation, 3x squared plus 10x plus 8, can be factored as y equals x plus 2 times 3x plus 4. Ain't that amazing? Let's do one more. Okay? And go back to purple. Let's try y equals 2x squared plus 3x plus 5. So the first thing you should do is identify a, b, and c. A equals 2, b equals 3, c equals 5. You set up your diamond puzzle. A, c, b. 2 times 5 is 10. B is 3. So now you think about this. What two numbers multiply to 10 and add up to 3? Well, if you can't figure out those two numbers, let's make a list of numbers that multiply to 10. So I'll start off with the easiest one. 1 times 10. And then 2 times 5. Is there anything else? No. I mean, you can technically use negative numbers, right? There's nothing wrong. You can use a -1 and a -10. And I guess a -2 and a -5 as well. 1 plus 10 is 11. 2 plus 5 is 7. -1 and -10 is -11 if you add them. And similarly, -2 and -5 add up to -7. Are any of those the number 3? No. There is no pair of numbers that add up to 3 and multiply to 10. What this means is, since you cannot find two numbers that multiply to 10 and add up to 3, we say the equation y equals 2x squared plus 3x plus 5 is not factorable. It is impossible for us to find two numbers that multiply to 10 and add up to 3. We say it's not factorable. With an asterisk, obviously. Okay? So you're going to be practicing factoring. And this is where a lot of people have issues. It's not the factoring portion, it's just they feel like there's too many steps. But I don't think there is that many steps. I mean, I'll write down the steps. Step 1. Identify A, B, and C. Step 2. Set up diamond problem or puzzle, whatever you want to call it. Right? That's this one right here. The third step. Solve the puzzle. Once you solve those two numbers, set up the box. Step 5, once you set up the box, start factoring. Find those numbers on the outside. And then once you fully finish factoring, write the quadratic in, write the quadratic in factored form. 6 steps, and most people can never get here. They don't know that you have to set up a diamond problem. And you'll notice 2 years from now, when you're in Algebra 2 or Algebra 3 or whatever, a lot of people are not going to know how to factor because they can't even set up the diamond problem.